Woodbury School. I'm Brad St. Lawrence, Principal. Happy to welcome you to our annual Salute to Veterans. Always a favorite day here at the Woodbury School is to bring together our community and our elected officials to recognize the service of our local veterans. And at this time, we would like to get started in calling forward the Salem High School Air Force Junior ROTC for the presentation of colors, and that will be followed by the National Anthem and Pledge of Allegiance. So at this time, would everybody please stand? Thank you. Please be seated. And at this time, I will call forward the Salem High School Honor Guard for their POW MIA Remembrance Ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, please charge your glasses with water. We also ask that all cell phones and pagers are turned off during the ceremony. This ceremony is performed at all formal military events when military personnel partake of a meal. As you entered the room this morning, you may have noticed a small table in a place of honor. It is set for one. The military cast is filled with symbolism. This table is our way of symbolizing the fact that members of our profession of arms are missing from our midst. They are commonly called POW MIA. We call them brothers. They are unable to be with us this day, and so we remember them because of their incarceration. The table, set for one, is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her oppressors. Remember. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember. The single rose displayed in a vase reminds us of the families and loved ones of our comrades in arms who keep the faith, awaiting their return. Remember. The red ribbon tied so prominently on the vase is reminiscent of the red ribbon worn upon the lapel and breasts of thousands who bear witness to their unyielding determination to demand a proper accounting of our missing. Remember. A slice of lemon on the bread plate is to remind us of their bitter fate. Remember. There is salt upon the bread plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait. Remember. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this morning. Remember. The chair is empty, for they are not here. Remember. The candle is lit, a light to help guide them home. Remember. Please raise a toast of water to those who are absent from our midst this morning.
Breathe in. Arms. Order. Arms.
To our POW MIAs Hear, hear.
Good morning, and at this time I would like to introduce some of our special guests. We have many special guests this morning. I want to introduce just a few who will not be speaking at the podium today. So first of all, welcome to New Hampshire Senate President Chuck Morse. Also to Brigadier General William Conway. Our New Hampshire State Veterans Cemetery, Director Sean Buck. And as always, a big thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Lee Smith for their uniform display. That is in the lobby, so thank you to the Smiths. This time I'm going to welcome our first student speaker to the podium reading his essay, and that's Connor Dowdy.
Good morning, my name is Connor Dowdy. We thank you for coming today to honor our veterans. What is a veteran? A veteran is a hero. A veteran is brave and heroic. Without them, we wouldn't be free to live our lives independently. Since the beginning of our nation, we've had strong men and women protecting our country. Without them, we wouldn't be America. They protect our country and keep us safe. The members of the United States Coast Guard, Marines, Army, Air Force, Navy, and our National Guard risk their lives to make us safe. Every branch of our military is important. November 11th, every year, we thank our veterans for everything they've done. Veterans are heroes to our country.
Thank you to Connor. And at this time, I would like to introduce up to the podium our first guest speaker, one of Salem's own and from our own school district, also our 82nd Governor of New Hampshire. Welcome back to Governor Sununu.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much. Oh, please sit. It's too early for that. It is an absolute honor to be here. Great to be back. I always get a funny feeling when I walk through Woodbury. Even to see some of the teachers, I won't call you out, I didn't last year, that are still here. But it really is great to be back. And look around. I mean, the room is full. This is a wonderful event, a very special event. And it's an opportunity, right? It's a really opportunity to remember and remind ourselves what Veterans Day is all about, what service is all about, why we do it. You know, no one signs up into the military because they say, well, I want to be a hero, so I'm going to sign on the papers, right? They sign up because they want to give. They know how important freedom is. They know how hard it is to keep. And we say it all the time, you know, freedom isn't free. It's not. It's not. And on a week like this, when you look back on Veterans Day, it isn't just remembering for a day, right? We talk about this a lot as well. We have Memorial Day. We have Veterans Day. We have, even if you look at 9/11, right? We have those who have given, that stood for us, and have given a lot. And a lot of folks who just aren't here with us anymore. And so, again, we have those special days, but I think it's important, and I say this, I talk about this a lot, just as a dad, right? I have a 14-year-old, I have a 12-year-old, I have a little 5-year-old. And one thing I always talk about, we try to remind ourselves as much as we can on a daily basis, what service is about, why we give, what America is about, what freedoms are, how we shouldn't take it for granted. And we have that obligation, whether it's as parents or in our homes or even in the workplaces or in our schools, right? To constantly remind ourselves on a daily basis what this is all about. There are a lot of veterans that are here today. These are heroes. I mean, these are real heroes that are with us today. There's a lot of great veterans that are not with us anymore. We mentioned the Veterans Cemetery. I got to tell you, people don't realize when you talk about veterans and those who have given everything, we have one of, if not the, other than Arlington and Washington, one of the greatest veteran cemeteries in the country. And I'm not just saying that as the governor, it really is a very special place. And we have the brand new facility opening up that allow students to come in and families to come in, and people really get more of a hands-on experience about what it is all about and why it is so important to cherish those who have defended us. Strangers, right? Strangers that gave their lives for us to protect our freedoms. That's an amazing thing that you don't get everywhere in the world. It's a very powerful thing, and something that has to really be appreciated and cherished, because while we're here with a lot of our veteran heroes, we have our active military out there overseas serving today, not with their families, giving of themselves. Those are our heroes today. And then on the outskirts, we're surrounded by the next generation, right? And that's why it's so important, because you guys, this is the next round of heroes to come up through the greatest country on earth. That's you, right? So one-day ceremonies are great, but let's remember what this is all about and why it's so special, and something that we have to really cherish in ourselves. And it's kind of like a daily affirmation, if you will, right? What is America about? What is freedom about? What is giving of yourself about? And remember so much about those who came before us. And obviously, one of the biggest thanks really goes not just to the veterans, those who came before us, those who are with us and not, but their families. I mean, those are the folks that carry that sacrifice with them day in and day out, right? Being in a military family can be tough. You bounce around, you can move around, you get deployed, you don't know, when a loved one might be coming back or when they're not coming back, right? So we have to really remember the families, because that sacrifice is very real, and it's something that they carry with them forever. But this really is a day to celebrate, and we have so many veterans. I'm looking out of all the different disciplines. I'm gonna be careful. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, National Guard, Coast Guard. I was getting there. I go through the list in my head. I've never forgotten one. I've come close. But really, to remember that all these different aspects of service that are out there, it's really an absolutely wonderful thing. So thank you all for being here. It is just absolutely great to be in my hometown and in my home school, and really celebrating something special about the individuals who have given so much for us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brad.
And this time we're going to treat you to a selection from our jazz band, and while they're performing, our student council will be handing out gifts to our table, so please enjoy. right, thank you to our jazz band. Also thank you to our student council for their gifts and effort this morning. At this time, I'm going to introduce our second speaker to the podium. It is our former state senator, multi-term New Hampshire governor, and now United States Senator, a longtime supporter of this event. Welcome back to Senator Hassan. Welcome back.
Thanks so much. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you to Principal St. Laurent for the introduction. It is good to be here, too, with Governor Sununu and Senate President Morse, with Senator Ayotte, with Brigadier General Conway. Major Melanson, I'm looking forward to your remarks. To Superintendent Delahunty, thank you so much for your work, and for Sean Buck and everyone at the State Veterans Cemetery. And I'll echo what the governor said. Our State Veterans Cemetery is a true treasure, and if you haven't been to visit it, you really should. But mostly, I want to say hello this morning to the students and thank the veterans who are here for your service, for your sacrifice, for that of your family. I also appreciate very much all of the students and staff and faculty who work so hard every year to put this event on. For 18 years, Woodbury School has held this special event to bring us together and to make sure that we are doing our job of thanking those who have sacrificed so bravely in defense of our freedoms. I commend the students joining us here today. It's really important to learn about and appreciate the sacrifices made by our selfless veterans and their families. We look to your generation to continue the tradition of service that has made our country safe and strong and free. Fewer than 1% of the American population currently serves in the armed forces, which means that the rest of us have to work harder to understand how their service has impacted their lives and what we can do to better incorporate veterans back into our communities. It's also really important on a morning like this morning to remember that brave men and women are currently in harm's way on behalf of all of the rest of us. We have been in Afghanistan now for 17 years. It's a long time. And family after family, service member after service member is making this sacrifice to keep all of us safe and free. Every Veterans Day, and at events like this one, I'm reminded of a number of veterans I've met, but I am reminded today of stories like those of Silvio Chouinard from Manchester. Silvio fought courageously in the Army during the Korean War. On his 21st birthday, he sustained injuries during a night mission and then returned to battle just weeks later. Silvio's actions went without proper recognition for far too long. I was honored last September to present him with the Purple Heart and other medals that he had earned during his service. We always have to be making sure that we recognize the service of the brave men and women who have defended us. I am also the daughter of a World War II veteran. So I appreciate the sacrifice veterans like Silvio have made to keep America the strongest, mightiest military and humanitarian force in the world. And thanks to their sacrifices, we can all live in peace. We owe all of our veterans a debt of gratitude that can't ever fully be repaid, but we have to continue doing our best to try. As part of those efforts, I'll keep fighting to ensure that veterans are receiving the resources and support that they need to thrive in civilian life. But I am also reminded of something my dad always tried to teach my siblings and me, which is that part of our job as civilians is to honor the values that this country was founded on and that our veterans have fought for and protected and promoted around the world. My dad at the breakfast table occasionally would look up at us, he'd lower the newspaper and look at us and he'd say, "What are you doing for freedom today?" My dad was so grateful to have survived the Battle of the Bulge that he always thought of his time home as a time to further the mission of freedom. So when I think about upholding our country's values, I think about the importance of speaking up for freedom and speaking up for the values that we hold so dear. I have thought about this in particular since last Saturday, when 11 of our fellow Americans were murdered doing the most American of things. They went to their house of worship, something so protected by our First Amendment. Their murder followed murders of 2 African Americans also last week. And it was clear from what the suspect in that shooting said that he had singled them out because of their race. My dad, fighting in World War II, Sylvia Chouinard, fighting in the Korean War, were fighting against evil. They were fighting against totalitarianism. In the case of World War II, they were fighting against an idea that brought freedom to the brink of extinction. So it is our job, all of us, to speak up for those values and that freedom everywhere we go. In the United States of America, where all men are created equal, we do not stereotype, we do not stigmatize, we do not single people out for the religion they choose to follow. All that matters in the United States of America is that we love our Constitution and the ideas it enshrined and the ideas that we stand for. Elie Wiesel, who was a survivor of the Holocaust, wrote, "The opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." So on this day of honoring our veterans, of thanking our veterans and their families, I would say to the students here, as you prepare for your life as the next generation of leaders in our wonderful country, think about the values that make us strong. Think about the words of our Constitution, all people are created equal. Think about the privilege that the adults in the United States will have this coming Tuesday of voting, of self-governing. And I hope everyone in this room who is 18 years or older is planning to vote. Please think about the gift of freedom we have been given, but more importantly, that so many people in this room have fought to protect and to honor. So thank you again to the Woodbury School for your continuing efforts to recognize the brave Americans and Granite Staters who answered the call to defend our country. I am so honored to be in your company. I want to again just express my profound gratitude and respect for your commitment, your courage, and your valor. You have made our country what it is. You have made our country the leader in the world for the best values and the best people on earth. So God bless you all. God bless New Hampshire. God bless the United States of America. And thank you.
Thank you to our Senator. At this time, I would like to call our second student essayist to the podium, and that's Gabriella Mosto.
Good morning. My name is Gabriella Mosto, and we are here today to celebrate Veterans Day. Veterans Day is the day where we thank everyone who has served our country. People who protect us, put others before themselves, and never give up, even though they might be scared. Our veterans are heroes through and through. Veterans Day is a day where we honor our country's heroes. Our heroes are courageous and are mentally and physically strong. They never gave up on themselves, our country, or anyone else. Thank you, veterans. We are truly the land of the free and the home of the brave.
And this time we're going to be playing our patriotic medley. When you hear your branch, we'd ask you to please stand in our audience to be recognized for your service. To our sixth grade chorus. And this time I'd like to introduce our third special guest to the podium, former New Hampshire State Attorney General, former United States Senator, and very happy to have her back to celebrate with our Salem community. Welcome, Senator Ayote.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank Principal St. Laurent. It's an honor to be here also with Superintendent Delahunty, and to be back at Woodbury School. Thank you to the governor and the senator, and also to the Senate President. It's so many distinguished guests are here today, but there's one group that I'm so honored to be in your presence, and those are our veterans. So thank you from the bottom of my heart and from all of our hearts for what you have done for our nation. Without you, we would not be the nation that we are. I also want to thank the veterans' family members, because our veterans and our military do not serve alone. I remember when my husband was deployed to Iraq, and we had just gotten married, so I was watching the news every day, trying to figure out what was happening, watching the bombing. And so family members, when your loved ones are away, you worry about what's happening to them. And I can tell you one of the happiest days of my life was when my husband made it home safely. So thank you to the family members who are here as well. Our veterans could not do what they do or have done what they've done for our country without your love and support. Since the founding of our great nation, in every conflict, our servicemen and women have defended our way of life. They have fought for us at home, in faraway countries, in the jungles, on the fields, in the forests, in the deserts. They have faced dangers that we can only imagine. In fact, as has been mentioned, but can't be mentioned enough, as we stand here today, our servicemen and women are in dangerous places like Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, other hotspots around the world. And we know, our Major Darin Melanson knows all too well that less than 1% of our nation right now is defending the rest of us. They are our true heroes. They are our patriots. They don't serve for money or fame or recognition. They serve because they love our country. So let's just take a moment, as the governor mentioned, not just today on Veterans Day, a very special day, to thank our veterans. Every day when we see someone who has served or is serving, let's go up to them and say, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing for all of us. Thank you for allowing me to live in freedom. And also, as we say our prayers at night, let's pray for the safe return of those who are overseas right now and for their families. Every generation has sacrificed so much for us to be here today. Some have given their lives in freedom, and we remember and honor them on Memorial Day. Some have never returned. I want to thank the Salem High Junior ROTC for such a beautiful job this morning with the solemn ceremony honoring and remembering our POW MIAs. I think this ceremony at Woodbury School is the best Veterans Day celebration in our state. And I'll tell you why. The reason it's the best is because of all these students. You understand and appreciate the importance of Veterans Day. We know that because we heard that in the beautiful essays from Connor and Gabriella. We know how thoughtful they were to understand and appreciate the sacrifice of our veterans. I also want to take a minute to thank someone who I think is an unsung hero of this event every year, and that's Cindy Woodbury. Thank you, Cindy. See, she definitely deserves a standing ovation. Thank you, Cindy. We know that you do this because you come from a military family, and of course, your father, John, incredible service to our country. Our veterans, they come from every walk of life, every background, every area of the country. Yet despite coming from different backgrounds, they all come together when they join our armed forces. And they come together and they show us what unity means. They put their lives on the line for a cause greater than themselves, the United States of America. Our veterans stand proudly under our flag because they have fought and died to defend it. And in times when we are divided as a nation, our veterans bind us together and remind us that what we share in common as Americans is so much greater than any of our differences. We can honor our veterans today and every day by following their example, by coming together as a nation and remembering that we are all part of a cause greater than ourselves. We are Americans, home of the free because of the brave. Today we're here honoring the truly brave, our veterans. Again, I want to thank every veteran who is here. Without you, we would not be the great nation that we are. May God bless our veterans. May God bless our families who help our veterans and support them. And I want to thank every student here at Woodbury School for really understanding, appreciating, and loving our veterans. Thank you.
And this time I'd like to call our final student essayist up to the podium. Welcome to Caleb Travato.
Good morning. My name is Caleb Travato. I'm proud to speak to all of you on such a special occasion. I'm here today to honor all of our veterans. What is a veteran? A veteran is a hero. A veteran is someone who fought for our country. They're also someone who believes in protecting America. I also think that a veteran is more than just someone who's been in wars or battles. A veteran is someone who risked their lives to defend what we believe in. In my mind, a veteran is my hero because he or she doesn't just protect us, they also have pride for the United States of America. I wish that I could be like them someday. So in my mind, I do believe that a veteran is a very special hero. Thank you for putting your life on the line for us. We appreciate all that you do and all that you have done. Thank you.
Thank you to Caleb. Thank you to all three of our student essayists. It's a great responsibility for them and a privilege to come up here. So once again, thank you to all three of our essayists. It was a great job. I'll now be introducing our keynote speaker. That is Chief Warrant Officer Darin Melanson. Welcome.
Good morning. Before I begin, if you notice, I did stand up for the Marine Corps hymn and the caissons will go marching by. I started in the Marines and retired from the National Guard, so I'm very conflicted during the Army-Navy games, so I had to stop watching them. Good morning, Governor Sununu, Senator Hassan, Senator Ayotte, students of the Woodbury School, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow veterans. I'm honored to be speaking with you today on such an important occasion. We're here today to honor our service members and remember their sacrifices. All veterans live by a code of values: honor, courage, and commitment as our duty to defend our country. Veterans from New Hampshire have honorably served our country throughout the entire history of our nation. New Hampshire veterans, while still a colony, fought in the French and Indian Wars. Many from even Salem, New Hampshire, joined Rogers Rangers, which was the foundation of what is today's elite Army Rangers. The Reverend Increase N. Tarbox, in his life of General Putnam, wrote, "We have the full conviction that the time will come when the whole nation will give the honors of the Battle of Bunker Hill largely to the common soldiers of New Hampshire who more than any other men fought it." In the Civil War, William Fox did an exhaustive study on Civil War losses, and the following statement appears. There were over 2,000 regiments in the Union Army. On some of these, the brunt of battle fell much heavier than others. The one regiment in all the Union armies which sustained the greatest loss in battle during the Civil War was the 5th New Hampshire Infantry. The 5th New Hampshire Infantry took part in almost every major engagement in the Eastern Theater during the Civil War. In our nation's most crucial battle, the critical moment when the Southern forces were starting to flank Little Round Top, a small element of New Hampshire sharpshooters held them off long enough so that they were able to put soldiers on Little Round Top to protect the Union flank. So New Hampshire was there, New Hampshire answered the call for service. And New Hampshire continues, veterans have answered our nation's call with its sons and daughters to defend freedom. New Hampshire veterans were in the trenches of World War I, fighting the Axis powers on the islands and waves of the Pacific Ocean, to the deserts in Africa, the mountains of Italy, and the hedgerows in France. Not long after World War II, our veterans were called upon again to leave their homes and serve in Korea. Our nation owes its respects and highest honors to those men and women who answered the call and served during the Vietnam War. They truly demonstrated selfless service and sacrifice. The nation responded to the invasion of Kuwait in the 1990s during the first Gulf War, or Desert Storm and Solid Shield. On September 11, 2001, terrorists struck the Twin Towers in New York, brought down an airplane in Skanksville, Pennsylvania, and crashed a plane into the Pentagon. We responded by sending our forces to Iraq and Afghanistan. Fewer than 10% of Americans can claim the title of veteran. And again, 1% of today's population is currently serving in the global war on terrorism. Consider the responsibilities of the president of a major corporation or the graduate of an expensive college. Can they honestly believe they have more responsibility than that 21-year-old who's walking patrol in a war zone? The service provided to our nation by our veterans gives us freedom, security, and the greatest nation on earth. It is impossible to put a price on that. We must remember them and we must appreciate them. Before I close, I'd like to share with you an excerpt from Citizens of the Republic, written by Teddy Roosevelt. My recruiter, Gunny Buslovic, who I can honestly say never lied to me, had these printed on the back of his business cards, his Marine Corps business cards. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself on a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. If that doesn't describe a veteran, I don't know what does. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take a moment as we transition into our final performance piece, which is a dedication to our local family service. And as we come to the close of our annual program, I want to thank, of course, a few people, including our music team, Miss Morgan, Mr. Motion from the band and jazz band, and especially Kristen Brzezowski, our director, of course. So thank you to our music team. And also a big thank you to our student performers, not only our readers, but our 6th grade chorus and our jazz band. So thank you to all of our students. Thanks to our student council and their directors for their efforts this morning, Andre Damaris and Leah Kish, and student council, as well as our generous donations from Maddie's and Man Orchards. So thank you. And a second, but a well-deserved second recognition to the organizer of this event, Cindy Woodbury. Thanks again, Cindy. So to all of our local veterans and your families, thank you for joining us this morning. As always, it is our privilege to host you. So happy Veterans Day to you all, and everybody have a wonderful day and weekend. Thank you.